You're listening to Conversations Ignite.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today I'm joined by Richard. How are you doing today?
Robbie, I'm doing great. So happy to be a guest on your amazing podcast.
I'm so glad to have you here. Would you like to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
So many things to say, but I guess they're the most interested in the CEO of Costa Rica's call center. It was a journey I had, started when I was 27 when I moved to Costa Rica, learned the business, and 18 years ago threw my hat in the ring and started a company. And here we are today.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your decision on actually moving to Costa Rica 27 years ago and starting a business down there?
Of course, a lot of us dream of being an expat, but we might be held back by certain pressures from family or expectations, even your career. For me, I was a Spanish major at the University of Arizona, so I had the momentum, and I also was bilingual, so I pretty much opened any sort of Latin America, for me. And so when I was 27, a very good friend of mine had a call center here, and he asked for me to come down for just a couple months to teach English. I was in between jobs. In fact, I'm going to date myself. I was sending out resumes via fax machine. That's how old it was. Hoping that you'd call me so I could sell water filters in Phoenix. But that's not the point. The point is I was in between. And you have a 1 in a million opportunity, Robbie, that does cross your path. Now, you might need to be selfish. You might have to really consider this bold and big decision. But for me, I didn't have children or a mortgage. And I was kind of at, 27 years old, and that's a lucky year for some people. And maybe it was time to shed some skin. And so my argument to my parents, because a lot of the times your family will miss you and they don't want you to move 3,000 miles away. I said, listen, look what great grandpa did. He came to the United States at the turn of the 20th. He couldn't even speak English. And we made our money during the Depression. I mean, that's a 1 in a million shot. It's in our blood. We're nomads. And if someone has that sort of spark and drive, you should encourage it, especially all the dedicated practice and investment that I made to get myself to that point. And so there are certain people that want you to live their lives, but the ones that really love you the most will allow you to live your life and support you. And so once that family guilt was out of the way, I was able to once again make a clean break for it and to start my life.
Awesome. So did you have any challenges during that transitional period?
Yeah, you always do. Really, it's just becoming accustomed to local norms, long lines, potholes. You wonder why things are not as efficient as you might see it in the United States, but sometimes they have their own way. Like, in Costa Rica, when I first got here, your mailing address was landmarks and meters and the color of your gate in your house. It's true. But cab drivers and the mail and your friends, you figured it out. And so are these the sort of whimsical games that keep you on your toes, sophomoric level? Sure. It's not the most difficult X marks the spot. It's like when you and I used to have to read the old maps and drive cross country. You still got to figure it out. I used to go, it's kind of funny. When I first got here, I had a compass in my car, one of those round ones. So at least if I was lost, I know if I was going east. And hey, why not? Live and laugh a little. You asked if there were challenges. Really what the challenge was decompressing and getting myself untangled from the life that I knew for the first 27 years, which was a beautiful life in the United States, but it's different. And so I just wanted to see if I can iron out some wrinkles and see if I could look at things differently. And it was a nice, mature age for me to have that sort of open-mindedness. And so I guess just patience and breathing and observing and not being the loud, obnoxious foreigner, knowing I'm a guest here. So it's a very nice stage in life if someone has the time and willing to put into it.
That's very interesting and awesome. What an experience. Um, What inspired you to focus on the call center industry?
How the movies portray it. I'm only kidding. The movies make us look out to be criminals. And that's not true. There are so many people that are out there that don't sling stock or real estate and know Glengarry Glen Ross. They're amazing people at small to medium sized companies that can retain a client, do upsells, get referrals, even prospect for them. And it's nice. It's the old fashioned way before AI and this omni channel non voice where people just send out texts and emails and chats. What got me into this? By chance. I never knew of a call center. The only experience I had was pure frustration when something wasn't working out. And when I came here, Robbie, and I walked into my friend's center and I saw these incredibly talented, highly educated individuals that were conversing on the phone and were moving calls forward and were very structured and had their training, I gravitated towards it. But I also got those kind of tingles where you knew when a teacher put a test down, not that you just studied for it, but you're like, man, I'm going to get 100 on this. And I saw this environment. I go, once I learn the ABCs, I know I can easily do something like this. And so after my 60 days, I spoke to my friend and I said, may I stay? And he goes, Ricardo, I was going to, nice Ricardo. I changed my name. He goes, hey, Ricardo, like Roberto. Hey, Roberto, I was going to ask you that question. And it was, boys aren't supposed to cry. But the moment that my friend said, I want you to stay, and I wanted to stay, and I fell in love with a local Costa Rican Tika, who's now my wife, and we built a business together. I've been with her for 25 years. I said, wait a second now, am I going to have a real dream life? Is this thing really going to happen? And so you get overwhelmed because you realize that you weren't expecting it, but you were hunting for it all along. And so I embraced it. I very much so did. And so I learned the business, Rob, from the inside out. I was not C-level. Yeah, I was friends with the owner, and you get to hear the war stories, but I didn't do the contracts or the payroll. I wasn't very familiar with the local labor laws and things like that. And so when it came time to me to start this company, I needed to hire specific specialists to be my branches and roots. And I couldn't start off by renting space and buying equipment. That was an overextension. And so fortunately for me in my industry, there are things called blended call centers, where it's almost like a glamorized internet cafe. And so I would rent a space, turnkey for the month with your computer and mouse and keyboard, internet, coffee, and a little bit of support. But it's almost like Spirit Airline. You know what I mean? It's going to get you from A to B, but I don't even think the seats go back. But I could scale accordingly. I could pay the taxes and the salary and make a margin. Was it pretty? But I tell you what, man, sometimes the greatest memories you have is the initial grind when you played a bar and only 2 people showed up. As a musician, you still played it. And you played your heart out. And so every account that came in, every agent that got me to grow to my 150 where I am today, it was exhilarating. It was weird. It was, you're on a high, you're jumping clouds. And so you have to be not crazy nor reckless, but you have to, from time to time, really dip your toe in and to see if you're brave enough to slay a dragon, because most people have the desire, but most never leave the castle. And are we the crazy ones? I don't know, maybe bold, grit, and John Wayne-ish. But in the end, it's those that are seaworthy. I mean, you've practiced for this your entire freaking life. Go out there at least once and see if you can beat Johnny and the Karate Kid. My goodness. I mean, live your life. It's like, when you ever see the bully pick on the kid, but the kid had the lion's heart to fight back and he even got one good shot in, even though he got beat up. The whole school respected him. You respect someone that's got heart, that's willing to die with their boots on and to go for it. And so I never saw that sort of momentum in me before. I was a below average student. I did all right, but I never worked this hard in my entire life. And if you ever have that sort of dream and you could see it in the distance and you know that persistence will get you there, it's very thrilling to have that sort of experience as a business owner. And I guess it's contagious because people can see that you're in a great mood every day. And those are just some of my thoughts. I know I go a roundabout way with the call center, but man, it's metrics and it's the server room and your telemarketing and rhetoric and FUs on the phone. We can talk about that too. But I wanted to at least call the balls and the strikes with the people and be the good coach that you had. Come on, Robbie, you know how it is, the old school way.
Yeah. So with all the inspiration you had, it sounds like you kind of built your business from the ground up. How did some of the early experiences that you had kind of shape and approach your leadership and culture that you use today?
Oh, the greatest cops were the bad kids back in the day, and the best teachers were the bad students. And the best warriors were the ones that actually fought and have their scars. And so I just don't write checks, and I'm not an administrator. I can jump on these phone calls and retain this client and teach them a thing or two. This is my wheelhouse. I'm not to brag, but man, if you spend a quarter of a century doing something, you better be good at it. Not only was I good enough, instead of just focusing on myself, I wanted to expand and bring others up. And so, wow, those 4 years that I spent at my friend's center, where you heard the good, the bad, and the happy and the sad, it easily allowed you to relate to the people that were on the phone. And so I have learned a few things: that you never mess with people's money or their kids. That's number one. Number two, give people the benefit of the doubt, because this can be a taxing job, that there are things that happen outside of the office that you don't even know might affect their performance. And I judge people accordingly. And I know if someone needs a timeout, it doesn't have to be during designated break times. You might need Robbie to put some water on your face and go play some pinball for 5 minutes or something. It's the teacher that wanted you to learn, and they allowed you to write your paper as many times as you wanted without being disrespectful, not turning it in late. I had certain teachers where I turned it in. They go, "Is this the best you can do?" I go, "It's not." They go, "Come on, focus on this and this and this." And I love those teachers. It's not about the grade. Get something out of this. And so if I can see someone building their self-confidence and self-reliance because I've seen other bosses break them down and put fear in them, it doesn't work. And I know how I like to be treated, but I also want to make sure that people are giving me their best. How about this? And this allows me to not have a heavy heart. I get disappointed more than I do angry at people. Because I know what you can do. I've seen what you can do. And so that's all. And I'll tell you something else that I like to do. When people are coming in for their interviews, they're filling out their resumes and their sheets. It's got all the bells and whistles, right? And they're so well rehearsed for their interviews. I hate that stuff. I go, "Hey, Robbie, do me a favor. Why don't you tell me a coming of age moment?" And you'll look at me. "Come on, man. The time you beat up a bully or saved a kitten or did both in one day like an 80s movie. Come on, man." And so why am I doing this? Because if you're going to land the account with Robbie, he's going to ask you a question. It's a zig and a zag. Are you capable of putting your script aside and actually answering this man? And so I like to see how they write in English, in their depth, right? And what sort of essence they have. And also it's so I can give them a nickname. On a rainy Wednesday, I'm like, "Come on, killer. I know what you can do." And so it's just a great way to anchor and bond with someone in the beginning and see if they're willing to make themselves vulnerable just a little bit, to just let me see what's inside. Because if we're going to get through tough times together, I need to see character. I don't want to be surprised when I really need you.
Awesome. So it sounds like you really try to learn about your people. You really try to care about your people,
Yeah.
along with making sure that the work gets done. So it really sounds like you've got that great culture right now in your company, which is amazing because I know that a lot of places out there, it's just, hey, get these results.
Oh, yeah. And guess what you can do? You can quit.
Mm,
You bend them to break them. You don't do that. You let them
yeah.
sweat. You let them learn. But we do have the luxury of infrastructure. I do have a QA team that will listen to your calls. I'll ensure that your list is good from the disposition report. I'll make sure you have all the rhetoric and rebuttals ready to go in the CRM system. It's really just up to you. I'm almost teeing it up for you. You just need to present it accordingly.
Nice. Now you've trained, I believe, over 10,000 bilingual telemarketers.
I forced them all to sit in a class. No, I kidding. Yes, I did. Over 25 years, I've trained over 10,000 people.
Wow. So what's your secret to effectively training and motivating those people?
You got to be entertaining, but you can't be a joker. I mean, you could be a very sophisticated professor, and people definitely listen to every word you have and write it down. But I've had teachers that just don't care. I'm very passionate about my subject matter. I defend telemarketing in certain aspects. I know people compromise their ethics doing it, but there's other people that see the art of speech and they want to study semantics and master their phonetics and learn transitional sentences and tie down sentences. And these are beautiful skills that people can have. You might think that they're clever, but some people need to know how to ballroom dance or cut their hair, or taper their beard. What do you want me to say? It's what we do for a living. We're supposed to be good at it. But it's like fire. It's a power. You could use it for warmth and heat and health, or you can burn somebody with it. So be careful of that sharp tongue. And most people are very lazy in their speech, or don't be a grammar police. And maybe I'll give you an example. Okay. A lot of people think that it's being polite by saying, "How may I help you?" And that's okay. But, the word help might evoke an ego defense, and it's really not the best word. It's like bad Halloween candy. You just don't want it. So I'd rather switch it out depending on the stage of the conversation. If it's a if it's a beginning relationship, it's assisting. If we're in the middle, it's a guiding. But if you and I are first and goal, and we're about to score a touchdown, it's lending a hand. So I replace certain words. I go to the thesaurus. Look at similes, especially for English second language students. It keeps it sharp for them. We were just increasing their vocabulary. Another example, instead of saying, "Excuse me, Robbie, because your dog is barking or I can't hear you," or something, we fall on swords. It's a play like in chess. You sacrifice pawns. So I'll say, for my clarification, was it A, B, C? Or 1, 2, 3? Maybe by the third time I'm asking for clarification, you realize to put the dog outside. But then I'm not done yet. I'm going to say, "Yo, Robbie, I love dogs. What's the name of your dog?" "His name is Champ." "Well, what breed is he?" "He's a German Shepherd." "Really? How old is your puppy?" "Ha ha ha, he's 12. Nice, Champ. German Shepherd puppy at 12. These are the sort of anchoring techniques people need to be very attentive. They need to be in the moment to catch that dog bark and put the script aside. And so one other suggestion that I would make, which separates us from other telemarketers, is the positive escalation. If I speak with Judy before she transfers me to you, I'm going to let her know how amazing she is. And when I get transferred to you, Rob, before I even introduce myself, I'm going to let you know how amazing Judy is. Think about your defense. There is no defense. Your defense from a 10 goes to a 1. I'll take that 9 and use it horizontally for momentum. Mass has to go somewhere. Give it to me. I'll take it. I'll take your 9 points. And then you wonder why conversations last 5 minutes. It's because you're showing very good faith prior to any sort of contracts. When was the last time Judy got complimented verbally? "Hey, Robbie, when was the last time she got complimented in writing?" Because when I do the meeting minutes and send the email, I'm going to say hi to Judy. She was great. So then I call Robbie's Company back for Conversations Ignite. Judy answers the phone. Hey, Judy, is this Richard Blank? I go, it is. Oh, you're the greatest. Robbie said what you said, and you wrote about me. I've been here for 12 years. No one's ever done something like that. And you wonder why you grow a business. Those are long-term relationship things that you do.
Wow, I love it. I love how you've talked a lot about motivating, even having a fun work environment. I heard you say something earlier. Maybe if somebody's, having a bad day, needs a break, maybe playing some pinball. How do you integrate fun and maybe gamification into the culture of your call center?
It's an excellent question. Very smart question. Icing the kicker. Can't do that. It's like people that run in place, those marathon runners at stoplights. I like people like that. You got to stay warm still in between sets. And so I don't want them to go have a cigarette, sit in a corner by themselves scrolling their phone or not interacting. I believe that you don't need to speak. You don't need to do anything. But if you can somehow work your mind with hand-eye coordination, with the lights, with the sound, it's a breather, but you're not getting cold. And I tell you what, my friend, when you laugh with someone, you see a different side of them. What jobs where people laugh unless you're laughing at somebody? My thing's like a neutral environment laughing. When was the last time you got to compete against with your boss? What, on the golf course? Who has time to do that, or the skills? When do you really get a chance to play with somebody? So I have an air hockey table. I got a bunch of fighting machines, Pac-Man, pinball. Let's see what your choice is. You choose. And what have I seen? I've seen people let off steam, recharge batteries, compete against me in a certain way of vigor. Like whenever you see the master teaching the student, it's nice to see the student know his wax on, wax off, and you can actually do 30 seconds worth of sparring. You're not just training. And when somebody is with me, they're talking a little bit of smack talk about the pinball. They're telling me, this last call beat them up a little bit, but then I remind them about what happened before with Mrs. Jones. Give them some Philly guilt. Robbie, say, come on, Robbie, you're better than this. Oh, and you're out of character today. And you're like, you're right, boss. And then at the end, they do haptics. You're not really supposed to touch people, right, at work. But I'll get the thanks, boss. Or if I'm playing pinball in the morning, they'll walk past me, hey, buenos dias, Jefe. Do you know how much of respect that is from somebody to do that sort of electromagnetic transfer of energy? So you tell me, and you wonder why people were with you for 8 years. Because you didn't twist a knife or kick them when they were down. You did something to allow them to do some self-reflection, to see what they can do to get out of this and save face. It's kind of weird like that. Or I could just churn them and burn them and hire another 5 guys named Billy. I don't want to do that. I see this as a sanctity, because I remember people paid it forward to me back in the day. Educators and certain supervisors, they could have broken me in a moment, but they didn't. They rebalanced my bike and gave me the focus. And I like that. And so, as I say before, there might be companies like Amazon, which are here, HP, Intel, and Oracle, and they could run circles around you. Look at their pockets and the money and their influence. But when you go raw, old school, and you connect with somebody on a personal basis, you can grow an army. Maybe not tens of thousands, but you can still get dozens of people that will continue to walk with you over a decade. And so that's the sort of advice that I could give to CEOs and entrepreneurs that are trying to start any vertical or any sort of business, not just necessarily a call center, which, and this thing is a burnout. People don't last more than 2 years in this. But I survived and I thrived. And I'm here today to teach people that these are the sort of soft skills that you can use outside of your office to give yourself a great life.
That's awesome. And really, retention is the key to any business. I've learned that just through the multiple things that I've done. And retention can be hard, but it's a lot easier when you are able to have fun and enjoy your job along with getting the results of your job. So that's amazing that you have that kind of setup. There's not too many companies that I know that would ever allow you to do that. So that's amazing.
Hold on for a second now. Let's all calm down. We have one of the largest attrition rates in any sort of industry. It's up to 300%. Robbie, let's talk about the bad side. Hmm? Let's talk about attrition. There's two types. I accept natural attrition. I can live with myself on this part of the game. If somebody leaves me because it's closer to their home, your girlfriend works there, right? It's a better schedule because of school. Or let's just be forthright. You might be able to make more money. That's okay. I just don't like the forced attrition where I have to fire somebody because you're not coming to work, not making your calls, coming in stoned or something like that, or treating it like a joke. It's not good. I mean, you're not following through, and it's a disappointment. And so I've had to make certain decisions. But I tell you what, the majority of the decisions that I made followed the labor laws. I've looked the other way on certain minor infractions that don't mean anything. But, if it's something where they're blatantly breaking rules, if you don't do something, you're going to lose the respect of the other people as well. And even though I have preventative measures, and I tried 6 times to get this person to do the right thing, there's only so much you can do. Come on, Robbie, we can't hit the ball and drag Johnny. You're 26 years old, man. What's wrong with this kid? He's got to get his act together. And I'm not going to sacrifice myself, cut my nose to spite my face and lose a client. It's not right. It's not theirs to give or take. It's my account. And so these are the sort of things we're highly selective. I tell you what, I would rather have somebody wet behind the ears, green, that's never worked in a call center before, like me when I first got here, that doesn't have bad habits. It's not a cancer, not a jumper. And I can mold them, Robbie, like a squire to a knight. They speak English. They have cognitive skills. Smart kid. They just didn't have a bad supervisor or work in a terrible environment or make this industry tainted. And so if I can keep it pure and work with this younger generation who I see as extremely effective, imagine the skills they have. They'll be able to do face-to-face communication compared to most people that can't do that these days.
Yeah. I love how your personality kind of shapes how you run and really run the company. So amazing.
Like Willy Wonka, right?
Now, while doing some research, I came across some different, I guess, techniques that you use in a call center. So, what is phonetic micro expression reading?
Guess what I brought today? I brought an actual prop with me. I think you get points in school for that. Are you ready? Can you see that?
Yep.
Excellent. Simple XY chart. Okay. Phonetics is broken down into tone, rate, pitch, and duration. Your tone should be the consistent variable. And I like to be empathetic and confident. Now, there's a technique that people use, Robbie. It's called the mirror imaging technique. Now, I would like to do the mirror imaging for the horizontal, which is the rate of speech, and the pitch, the speaking level, the vertical. That's what you match. I match you. Why? Because there might be a spike or a dip in regards to movements that people have. That's why I have these 4 quadrants here. Most people speak in quadrant 1. If you want to use me for an example, Robbie, put me as an 8 in regards to speed and an 8 in regards to level. So let's just say every 30 seconds I should be hitting that, or at least around there. But if there's a spike or a dip, you still don't know me. It's expression reading. It's a first time read. What can we do? I can't even see you. And so I've broken down that these are the times to interject and ask a certain clarification question. If things make sense, sounds good, may we move forward? Simple one-on-one checkpoints, but in the course of 25 years and tens of thousands of phone calls, I've cracked the code. I've seen certain things. And then the biggest tell sign that people have is duration. It's the answering speed. It's the spacing in between words, which is kind of ironic, but makes the most amount of sense. In regards to phonetics, you need silence in order to have sound. And so stop studying the sound. The real tell sign is the silence in between the sounds. And so you could manipulate a tone. You want to be angry at me? All right, be angry at me. Okay, you want to be nice? Fine. Do you want to speak faster than me, slower, louder, softer? Come on, Robbie, you can manipulate that for an hour. But the one thing you cannot do, your subconscious, you cannot master that answering speed. You can't answer me every 3 seconds. What happens when the police officer brings out that evidence? Either you're answering too fast or it's taking for an hour and you're crying. And so that's the real tell sign. That's what comes out. And I want to give homage to one of the greatest communicators of all time, the late Helen Keller. You had this individual that lost her sight and her hearing, but she was able to create not only languages with Anne Sullivan, but was renowned as one of the most inspirational people back in her day. And she would touch people's lips to read or do it on her hands or be able to speak. It was incredible what she did. And so what I'm trying to say is that we're in a very controlled environment here. Controlled. And if you want to do a focused study on it, fine. You are eliminating literally 3 of our senses. You're taking away the taste, touch, and smell. And don't tell me you can smell the client, taste it. No, you can't do that. You can hear them, which should be expanded. That's why I was talking about the dog in the background and the certain sort of breathing, hesitations and pausings and fluctuations of phonetics. It can be done in any language. But really, the main thing there to me is, with this micro expression reading, is pretty much the image streaming. Because what's interesting is they say, but you can't see the client. I understand that. But imagination and rhetoric and colorful and flowery language is much better. The book is 10 times better than the movie. And through metaphysics, we are capable of producing images. And so I believe that, yes, you still have 2 senses. Your hearing gets expanded and your sight gets blown up like I've never seen before. It's incredible. You could show someone a picture of a clock, yeah, but open it up and give descriptions now. Come on, it's 10 times better. And so I'm asking people to, even if they're on the phone, is to close their eyes so there's less distraction. And they can really paint a picture. So it's not a print. It's really a difference. And so this phonetic microexpression reading is something that you can incorporate in your phone calls, in your business. And it's not going to take away from any sort of CRM work, your rhythm, your handling time, wrap-up time. And in 3 weeks, it becomes habit. And so it's just being a little more astute. It's like being an architect student. You walk around the city. Most people don't understand weight distribution or certain sort of styles, but this guy does. I mean, he sees it differently, the world, than you do. And so if you just do a little bit of that sort of study, it's incredible because all the world's a stage. It's a luxury trade. Everywhere you go, there is speech. And so you're not, intruding or prying. But man, if you're sitting next to somebody and he's talking to somebody, you can't help but hear it. You might as well, besides droning it out, you might as well try to see if you're able, or if you're studying something on TV as speech or conflicts or interpersonal communication, just studying that. And so for me, what did it do for me? I was able to ask clarification questions, things that make sense, sounds good, maybe we move forward. And so just by doing that and studying every 30 seconds to 2 minutes a spike or a dip, I was able to incorporate the phonetic microexpression reading.
Wow, that's really interesting. And especially, I never really thought, but in your line of work, you really do lose some of those perceptions because you can't see or you can't smell. So that's very interesting.
Do you pay attention to people's breath? They're doing, or, okay. Keyboard, clicking, object adapting. I don't know. There's certain tell signs people will give you in the dark. Yeah.
Interesting. So another skill that I've heard about is the boomerang technique.
That's it, my man. The buffer boomerang technique. Do you see that, Robbie?
I do. I love when you bring props.
Who's prepared? Who's prepared? Like hitting that bullseye on a dartboard. I'm prepared. Anyway, the buffer boomerang technique. Someone always asks you a question. You have to answer it. But the worst thing is to sound like you're in a principal's office and getting yelled at, like you're in trouble. So what we try to do on the phone is to readjust tones. So for an example, I call your company and I'll go, Conversations Ignite podcast. How are you today? What I like to do a lot of the times is a company name spike. It's my first impression. I have anonymity. And it also snaps whoever the gatekeeper is out of their zone of being a telemarketer. I could be a mystery shopper or your best friend, Robbie. So usually they'll say, oh yeah, this is Conversations Ignite. Who is this? And I would say, Judy, that's a great question. My name is Richard Blank. You do the name drop, let them know it's a great question, repeat the question, and send it back positive. That's usually on a positive reinforcement. Sometimes when you're calling a company like, who is this? I'm so glad that you asked that question. My name is Richard Blank, and I'm not going to give the name of my company yet. I want to double dip it to see if I can get a positive or a negative reinforcement. Did the tone adjust? Did they slow down, speed up? I don't know you, dude. And I'm speaking to you for a third time. Let me see how you sound, so at least I can see if there's a pattern. So if you got a little bit nicer, because I said Conversations Ignite, and I don't sound like a telemarketer, and you're like, yeah, who's this? I'm so glad that you asked. My name is Richard Blank. Then they're going to go, who is Richard Blank? Gotcha. Not, why are you calling? Is this a sales call? Take me off your list. Don't call again. Or am I famous? F you. No, they go, who is Richard Blank? I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad that you asked. Richard Blank is the CEO of Costa Rica's call center. You take it and you bring it out. It's like a half moon. Robbie, excellent question. ABC is 1, 2, 3. Richard, what's 1, 2, 3? Robbie, I'm glad you brought that up. 1, 2, 3 is ABC. ABC is 1, 2, 3. Look, his tones are changing. Look, he's sounding nicer. That's correct, Robbie. ABC is 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? It does. Great. May we move forward? Yes. Of course, they're going to ask you who you are. Of course, they're going to ask why you're calling. Instead of saying, why are you calling? I want an appointment with Robbie. What's your name? Richard Blank. You sound like a salesman. I do. No. Come on, man. Show some finesse. Get Judy's name. Thank her for her time. Let her know she's great. Let her know it's a great question. Repeat the question so she doesn't have to repeat it again. And keep readjusting that tone from negatives into positives. And so it's just an excellent close fighting technique where you're blocking punches and getting one in there. Not the whole call. It can be annoying. But after you get through the initial gatekeeper filtering 99 other phone calls or just trying to get Robbie on the phone stuff, no, the first thing I'm going to say is not, is Robbie there? Or, hi, may I speak to Robbie? That was a Conversations Ignite podcast. You know why? Because I'm going to say better than the person that picked up the phone for you. Could be you, could be somebody else, but I'm going to teach you a lesson. It's the name of your company better than you did. And you worked your tail off to do Conversations Ignite podcast. You've been working hard the last 6 months. So when I say the name with trumpets and a red carpet and all the flair, that at least is going to allow you to give me 30 seconds to properly introduce myself. At least I bought 30 seconds with Robbie. Doesn't mean his credit card's at the ready. Come on, man, I snapped you out of it. I'll let you know I'm proud of your podcast. Then you're going to ask who I am. I'm going to say my name. I'm going to say the name of my company. And then you go, you know what? What do you got going on, Richie? What's happening? And then I'll explain my services. But you don't need to angle. You don't need to press. And I think the best thing you can do in the beginning on this buffer boomerang is to try to anchor, get somebody's name, thank them for the question. Great question, smart question. Repeat that question, active listening, and send it back beautifully. And do not be surprised if 3 seconds turns into 15 seconds, turns into 30 seconds. Then you get to transfer. It's the positive escalation. The person picks up. You do the name drop of the person that assisted you because you're in the right department now. Their defense goes, you just got another 30 seconds again to do 2 buffer boomerangs a second time because he's going to ask who you are and why you're calling. But before that, you already complimented Judy. So you don't have to worry about adjusting tones. And the guy loves you already. And so it's great. Of course, you're going to ask who I am. That's why Judy transferred me. Come on. I'll bite an apple when I juggle Robbie. And so why do I also do this? You really want to know the psychology behind making these calls? Let's get straight. Let's get real. And it's not just for telemarketers. It's for any industry, okay, that plays their odds. I believe in jumping clouds and romantic deaths. Por lo menos, at least I do 2 name drops in the name of a company in a positive escalation before through default they were disqualified or it just wasn't the right number. The person doesn't live there anymore. In order to do these long marches, it shouldn't be a death march or even a forced march. You should know what you're doing on a daily basis when you're hunting. And you should do it with a certain way where you can keep such a positive mindset where you don't get hard on yourself because you didn't get a certain appointment. But if I spoke to Judy, spoke to Robbie, and just after 6 minutes, we realized he doesn't like ice cream, he just doesn't need it. He's lactose intolerant, there's no sale. But then you get to see the reinforcement. And he goes, Richie, thank you so much for calling. It was really nice speaking with you. And then don't be surprised if 2 months from now, I get a phone call from Billy and he goes, hey, Billy, do I know you? Nope, but you know Robbie. And you know Judy. And they said you were the nicest person on the phone. You didn't press anything. Obviously, they don't need ice cream, but I do. But they said, if you need ice cream, you better call Rich Blank. He's got the best in town. And so I've gotten so many, it's like planting seeds. I've gotten so many beautiful referral phone calls of somebody that had nothing to do with telemarketing, but thought I was great and was just kicking tires and testing waters. And just says, hey, I know a guy in Costa Rica. You should give him a call. And it's very humbling, when people do that and they speak well about you behind your back. And so every phone call should be that impression that you're leaving and separating yourself from all these other telemarketers that kind of muddy the waters. And those are kind of my thoughts on that.
Wow, that's an interesting technique. I like it. Are there any other strategies that you believe are essential for, I guess, today's competitive environment?
You just already showed it. Look how prepared you were for today's interview. Such a professional, Robbie boy. You know all about my background. And so the more prepared you are, the easier it seems to be. It's almost like a boxer. Do your training. And when you walk into the ring, expect to win. And so my suggestion is to do some due diligence prior to an email, a voicemail, or even a phone call. Check a website, LinkedIn profile, who knows? And don't just look for the bells and the whistles. Look for the real goodies, outside interests. And a lot of individuals, not saying that we're inquisitive, but they're putting these pictures out there in the public. Look in the background of their offices. You might see a football on a, there, or in my case, a jukebox and a candy machine. Rock on. It's a 61 Ricola Regis. And so if somebody says, hey man, I saw a podcast and you had a Ricola back in your background, I'm like, hey man, he actually did see it. And so what does this do? It at least you're not calling someone sir and doing a boilerplate voicemail, email, robocall. It's custom make. I keep mentioning paintings. It's a one of a kind. You see the brush strokes, and it was made with love. And so when I do these calls and you get a chance to congratulate a company on their anniversary or their beautiful loading dock next to a lake, or the fact that they're not wearing ties and jackets in their photographs, you can see that they're like, polo shirts, and they seem very cool, and look at their game room. It's nice. I've always felt that the better phone calls were the ones that actually showed interest. It's like a cocktail party. Remember I asked you about your dog? I wanted to know its name, its breed, and how old it was. I just didn't say, oh, he's got a dog. And so when you ask second or third questions about somebody, those are the real friendships as well, the ones that remember birthdays or special things about you. And you're like, man, you still remember that? You're like, of course I do. And you're like, man, that's a real friend that remembers. And so if you're just going to compare me through pricing and contractual terms, man, the East will blow me out. They're half my price, and some people are willing to work certain ways. If you want to do it on merit, as long as the metrics work out and you put me on a level playing field, I can get there. I can offset certain costs with skills. And finally, if I need to give somebody peace of mind, knowing that, and I do love this about my company, it's mom and pop, my wife and I. Robbie, you call my company, you speak to the CEO, and it's okay. People want to know that somebody has skin in the game as well, and that they do care. And some of my favorite clients are the icebergs, the 1 to 3 seaters, that in the beginning, but they're just testing you. Come on, this. And when you treat them well with 3, all of a sudden you get 30 seats. So I'm no fool. Penny wise, pound foolish. No way. I treat everyone the same. Everyone. And the larger ones are more of a pain in the ass. It's the smaller ones that you can grow together. That's the real foundation right there, because you were in those stages, Robbie, when you only had 1 seat, 1 employee working part-time. You could only dream to have a dozen people. I got 150 now. I got to pinch myself. This shouldn't have happened. And so brick by brick, one by one, remember when you used to keep your quarters so you can go down to the arcade, filling that piggy bank? Man, I love filling quarters all day long. And so it's nice for me. There's only so many dinners you can eat. And yeah, I have my fun. I buy video games and stuff. I don't go out and buy Rolexes. I'd rather have 5 pinball machines. So I have my own taste. But there's a certain point in your career where you've had enough of certain things, and all you want to do is pay it forward and see other people succeed. It gives you such happiness when you have acorns for the winter and a nice nest. It really calms the heart, and it's fulfilling, because you realize how hard and how long and the time it took to get there. And so interesting.
Okay, so you own a whole bunch of pinball machines and antique jukeboxes. How did you get into that?
Well, grew up in the 1970s and 80s, a pure Generation Xer. And during that time, some of the greatest places to hang out with your buddies was at the arcade. Now, I could master Asteroids, Phoenix, Paperboy, and all those games, but when it came to pinball, it just seemed like such an advanced skill. Your quarters went fast, and it just didn't last. It was just too high end for me. And so it's interesting. Today, all the arcades are out of business. They might have a few Dave and Buster places here for tickets, but you can't walk into a place and find Pinball and Pac-Man. And so through the years in Costa Rica, I'd be checking the Facebook marketplace. And since I had a call center and I had the space, I had the room. And so I would see places going out of business, and you would see certain bouncy castles and other machines, but in the background, from time to time, I would see a pinball machine with boxes on it. I call and ask, drive out there with a couple buddies of mine, and bring them back. Now, I know what you're thinking. Were they turnkey ready? No, most of them didn't even turn on. But I know the price and I know the value. So for just a couple $100, I would pick up a machine that would be about $4,000 to $5,000, bring them back and take the marquee off. And you would see all these placas, these cards that are behind there, these memory cards and for electricity and for the lights and for the sound. Depending how corroded they were, burnt out or whatever they did with them, MacGyver style, just take them all out. And between $200 to $1,000, I can replace them all. And when you do that, all of a sudden, the majority of your machine works. You just need to replace a wire or two and maybe a light bulb. But I tell you what, my favorite decade is the 1970s. I love the old electromechanical machines with the wheel, more contacts, less computer. And so I traded a 1994 Bally's World Cup machine for two classic machines, a 1970 Bally's Camelot and a 71 Bally's Expressway. They're gorgeous. And the 1970s, it's the last decade where they used to paint the play field, paint the wood. It's not a laminate or a sticker. And the sound would be like either a xylophone or certain bells. You got the old wheel. And the marquee would have beautiful artwork. And you look at the outside, which would have certain styles to it. And so for me, I love those machines. And the agents, they never played these machines before, virtual pinball. But I couldn't agree with Elton John and The Who even more. You feel this machine. I mean, you can sense it in the lights and the sound. And just like Stephen King's movie Christine, I believe that these machines, these jukeboxes and these pinball machines have electromechanical energy. They'll transfer energy to you. And I can tell when the machine's happy or not. Kind of like your car. If you don't clean it, it's not going to work. But, the jukebox is, what a beautiful pastime. I mean, some of the machines I'll mention is a Wurlitzer 64, a 61 Seeburg AY 160. The one that I have in my home is a beautiful 1977 Seeburg STD4 Mardi Gras. If you've ever seen it, it's the one with the rainbows on it. It's a beautiful machine. And so it's fun. I mean, you put one of those things in your living room, put an MP3 or a Bluetooth in it, you got unlimited music. And don't be surprised if people don't start getting up and dancing. And it's a lot more lively in your home. And come on, man, I see your man cave. You got plenty of room in there for a jukebox and a pinball machine.
I think that might just be an idea.
I'll help you find them, though. And I was explaining that I know what you're thinking. Richard, it's tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah, if you want the games today. But if you take a no-namer from the 70s and early 80s, like my Expressway compared to the Captain America or Kiss machine, you can get those for under $1,000. And there are certain places like Marco's Specialties and these other areas where you can just order specific parts and just plug and play it. And then you have the local electricians that can easily follow these manuals that you can get online, these PDFs. And you were mentioning earlier about my expertise. I'm a novice, but I tell you what, whenever I have my buddy Don Francisco come to my house to work on the machines, or a good friend of mine, Martine, who's an expert in this, I'm sitting there taking notes. I'm watching them solder it and using the stuff to test electricity, and you learn. You learn so you can fix the little stuff. If it's major, I got the guy coming in, but if a ball gets stuck, if I got to replace something, come on, I learned how to do that. Easy. And you keep them going because they're high maintenance and they're delicate, but they're beautiful. And the worst thing ever is someone that thinks they're funny by like hitting the machine. You schmuck, this machine's 40 years old. Why are you hitting my machine? That's not cool. That's disrespectful. I'm letting you play it. These are antiques. That's why they have the tilt, and you're not being funny or cute. It's not like Happy Days with the Fonz. I don't want you banging the stuff. Seriously. And what's kind of interesting, when I've had potential clients come into my office, that's an excellent. I've had two different types of psychological tests when people come in. First is they don't know that my wife is the owner of the company. They just think she's the director of human resources. I've seen people be like, hey, get me a Diet Coke. What? No, that doesn't work. And secondly, how they treat the machines. Because if somebody doesn't see my love for them, my admiration and the restoration and to treat them like that. I definitely do not 100% want you as a client. I could care less about the money. You're an idiot. You're hitting my machine. It's not right. And so, anyway, that's just my feel for it. But yeah, we got to definitely find you a machine there in Georgia. I'm going to start looking for you.
Awesome. I also love how not only do you collect them, but you also restore them. So that's pretty neat. What would you say your favorite pinball machine that you have is? And how many actually do you have?
You can't say that. It's like, who's your favorite child besides the redheaded stepchild? No, I'm only kidding. I have 13 pinball machines. All right. But you can't. I can definitely say that some gameplay is different from others. Like, for an example, my 1986 Williams Pinbot. It's a very famous machine. That is a light display. I love the sound. I love the game. Easy multi-ball. But then you have the Arnold Schwarzenegger 94 Last Action Hero. That's a Data East machine. That multi-ball is crazy. You got 6 balls going at one time. That thing's just madness. And you got a gun to be able to, instead of the pin, that's how you start the game. But then you have your NBA Fast Break. That's a beautiful machine right there. And so that actually has the best play field out of all. What a fun game with so many ramps and the noise and the scoring. And in fact, the way you start that game is a button in the beginning just to launch the ball. Right next to that is a 1989 mousing around Bally's machine. What a beautiful machine from the late 80s. Open play field, a couple really good ramps, great sound, a lot of fun. And then right next to that, oh my God, it's a 1977 hot tip Bally's. You're talking about a really fast moving game from the late 70s. Easy targets. 2 main ones. I mean, you got a couple drop targets. You got a couple spinners, 1 ball to hit for points. It's a beautiful game. It moves so fast. And it's a gorgeous looking marquee. Next to that is a 1976 Bally's Freedom machine. And that's the first pinball I ever bought. I bought that from my older brother back in the day when he was selling real estate in Arizona. He had the Freedom team. So I got that for people in the office. And that is a gorgeous old school machine. Very special because it's all Philadelphia with the Liberty Bell. Next to that's a 1986 Williams Space Shuttle machine. It's all spacey and the marquee's fun because it's got like mirror to it in the Space Shuttle. That's a fun game to play. Really good open play field. And then the one next to that is the Judge Dredd machine, which is a really large one. It's a very interesting machine with a lot of canals to it. And then on the other side, next to the Pinbot, as I told you, I have a Doctor Who machine. It's a loud machine. It's a fun machine. That's an interesting machine, Doctor Who. It's a good play. And then, as I mentioned before, I got the Bally's. The Camelot in the Expressway. And I also have. It's interesting. I got a Data East hook machine, which is from Peter Pan. But I tell you what I did with this one. I'm giving it to the employee that's been with me the longest. My boy, Tony, T-Money, also known as the Feral Cat. Well, the Feral Cat's been with me for 17 years. Oldest employee I got with me. Walked with me this whole time during the ups and the downs. So besides paying the top salary and giving him the window seat and the best seat and all the acclimates, what more can you do to somebody after all that time? Well, he loved that machine. And I said, you know what, pal? That's yours. I got enough.
Pretty amazing.
And so, yeah, man, you give him a machine so he can bring it home and be a collector. And so it's very interesting. I've given out so many of the machines. I had a police trainer light gun machine. That was fun. I gave that away. I had a Maximum Force where I got a chip on it where you can go into Area 51 as well. So you had double gun games there. And people are just giving them away. Arcades don't exist anymore. It's taking up space in people's bodegas. And let's be realistic. If you can pick up a Dynamo air hockey table from 1996 for $100 and it works, buy it. All you need to do is get Wildcat 125 which is a pinball and air hockey surface. Take your time and just poke holes in every little hole they got, and fix out some of the lights, get the electrician just to make sure the fan's working great. It's an easy game to fix. You got an air hockey table, champ. You got an air hockey table for $100. Seriously? Come on, you have to buy that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So I can tell you're running a successful business. You have some great hobbies. I also understand that you endow a scholarship for students majoring in world languages.
Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. My proud alma mater, Northeast Philadelphia, Abington High School. I tell you what, if I didn't get that college recommendation letter from my dedicated Spanish teacher, Esperanza Galshak, and the late principal, Norman Schmidt, there's no way I would have gone to the University of Arizona. And so look what that did with my trajectory in life. I would have never met my buddy that owned the center here. You have to think about your circle and where it began and the sort of commitment that you gave to yourself at 18 years old. And so I look back at it and I understand athletics and academics and other things people can earn scholarships. And I know it's a lot of hard work and I appreciate that. But there, in my mind, because I did it, there's something about the Northeast Philly kid that, besides my thick Philly accent, learned how to speak Spanish. You got to be kidding me. I mean, seriously, really, really. And so anybody that does that to me, it is my pleasure to pay for their books freshman year. I needed to do that scholarship. And then I don't know how it happened, but I was inducted into the 2023 class, the Hall of Fame, next to, you're not going to believe some of the people that graduated this high school: Stephen Schwartzman from Blackstone, Amber Bose, Ashton Carter, Michael Buffer, Let's Get Ready to Rumble, Bob Saget. We had Eddie George, and Sean Wooden, my year. Just proud ghosts, amazing people. And then there's me, the above average student, above average, come on, average student. I was just a nice kid, and I had a smile, and I had a spring in my step, and I was immature, and I was unfocused, and I didn't have discipline. What do you want me to do? I was 18 at the time. And some people believed in me and gave me enough chances and told me what to do to set me straight and get me on my way. And if you're capable and you're able, do something like that. Pay it forward in a certain way. It's a beautiful thing to do. It's once again, you would have given your left arm to be in the position you are today. Give it back. And so, but I appreciate you bringing that up. It's I never would have thought that. And in fact, the principal at the time, Angelo Barrios, who's now the superintendent of Bucks County, became a very good friend of mine. Sin vergüenza, without shame, for one of our reunions, I think it was like 9 years ago, I showed up to hang out with my buddies. I said, hey, man, let me just go by the high school. And it's not like the old days where you can just show up. You got to call, set an appointment, go through security. They get background checks. And who am I? I'm just a kid from the class of 91. But they took my meeting. I think I brought Costa Rican coffee so I can get in there and walk the halls for a couple minutes, to smell it. Yeah, it still smells like high school. But little did I know that when I sat down with this individual, it was around my age, we hit it off. And I was telling funny stories and I was very appreciative. And I don't know what happened, but we connected. And through the years, every time I would go back to Philadelphia, I got a hero's welcome at a place that raised me. And I believe in nurture, because I went to private school prior to Abington. I got kicked out in 7th grade. This prestigious school called Germantown Academy, where my father and brother graduated from, a beautiful place. And I was very happy to have my elementary education there. But I learned something. Certain private schools, no one lives in the neighborhood. Everyone lives yonder. Unlike public school, where everyone lives within a mile of the school. So all the kids that you saw when you were driving by in the car or other places, you know these kids now. And so I started a little bit later. I was the new kid, but I was the right kid. I was in the right environment. And it really, the school was a little bit of a structure, but it was more of the people that I grew up with that had confidence, and we were united. We all fell in love with each other and supported each other, but had that Philly grit. And I don't know, maybe it's just one of those things where you belong, and I did. And I didn't know what else to do besides give pinball machines away to my favorite employee and give money back to my high school. That gave me a second chance when the first school kicked me out and didn't give me a chance. And so, I tell you what, I like people that like me. I mean, I'm still friends with the people that I went to school with, but the administrators weren't really my biggest fans. And I tell you what, looking back at it now, there were two teachers, and I'm going to give them plugs, Mr. Wakeman and Miss Delario. It's my science and English teacher. They were so sweet. I completely failed their class. I should have gotten 5 Fs. I got 3 Fs and 2 Ds. They gave me Ds when I knew I failed. I know I failed their classes, but they were such good people. And they really, think about it, at 13 years old, what you could do to someone's self-confidence could really break a kid. And then all of a sudden that kid goes the easy way into drugs, breaking windows, staying out late, stealing cars, Boys Town. I mean, come on. I went the hard way. I wanted to get my act together. I knew what it was like to feel low and have people not believe in you and parents not want their kids to play with you. So you got to get your act together. And it's better off that you do it at a young age and you realize it's not fun to get in trouble. And it's better to be a good kid. And so maybe I got it out at those stages, and look what it turned into now.
Wow, that's really amazing. It's just amazing to see how you're giving back to some of the less fortunate people, which is really, really awesome. Not a lot of people do that, so big shout out to you for being able to do that.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. And sorry to vent about my elementary stuff, but I still have nightmares about that. I'm not kidding. But you have to see, it wasn't easy for everybody. No one's an angel.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the best parts, seeing people come from, kind of tough things and seeing where they've come to and making so much success out of it.
Because you get marked. People put you in a certain category at a certain stage of life. So it takes a lot to get out of that and to change things.
Mm-hmm. So I had heard you mention something in the beginning of the interview about AI. What are your thoughts on the pros and cons of AI in your industry, and especially telemarketing right now?
Well, it's the buggy whip and the steam engine. I'm not going to fight it, but I'm also not going to embrace it completely. Let me give you a real solid argument on AI for me. It's definitely going to replace an enormous amount of people because they're going to keep getting better at IVRs and voice responses. And so let AI do the gathering and the confirming. But when you need that empathy, that's the one thing you need, the real human interaction, because AI can't tell you how you feel when you break your arm or your puppy runs away or your heart gets broken. That's an insult. You can't do that. It's like a very cold metal bench. It's just not real. Okay. And so I think that for the most part, I will accept AI to ensure that people are getting to a certain level where their information is complete. There's no latency, human error, fatigue, attitude. So I think a lot of that stuff can be replaced, almost like an ATM. You don't need to go into the bank anymore to speak with Betty. You're allowing this machine to give you the money. You understand how it works. It's quick. It's easy. In and out. Bing and bang boom. Even when you're filling up your own car. So I'm saying there's certain stages where you still need to interact, but I think the majority of it, people can do it themselves because it will go quicker. And they're going to get better at it. But there's something called the uncanny valley. And there was this Japanese robotics scientist in the 70s that says that there's a certain point to where once the machines get too human-like, we freak out and it drops down to a valley. That's why, like, if you watch Star Wars, which I know you do, I see that stormtrooper in the background. I think more people related to R2D2 than they did to C3PO, even though C3PO looked more human in regards to his structure and he spoke Queen's English. Okay, but it's too close. It was freaky. While R2D2's noises and the shape of him was just so lovable. Come on, you have to admit. I don't speak for Star Wars people, but I think if they had to choose on a sinking ship, who would they grab first? Would it be R2 or C3PO? I think more people would choose the R2.
Yeah.
But I'm more of a classic Battlestar Galactica fan, right? You know, but that's just me with Starbuck and Apollo. But it's the uncanny valley, and it's freaking people out a little bit. And so I think that they want to still keep it a certain way. So there's a distance, it's relatable. But, and you know, it's weird too when you get these robocalls and the problem is, and we spoke about this earlier, was the answering speed. They're asking the right questions. The sound sounds good. It kind of doesn't sound like a computer, but you know when you catch them is their answering speed. Come on, Robbie, you know that. They're not doing it on a natural way. And so that pisses you off. You hang up the phone, you get angry. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs, okay? But I'm not saying Darwinism, but you also have to realize if you are talented and you have skills, you are marketable. There will be a place for you. Do I see myself as a relic? Hell yeah, I do. I'm bald, I'm old, and I'm from the 80s and 70s. But at least I have the experience and specific soft skills that if I had to work amongst AI, I would hopefully be considered for an empathetic position or a position where I can retain a client in a certain way. Who knows? Who cares? The thing is, though, not to fight it and to see the areas, as I mentioned before, like the alphatron, like the host that gets you in, and then the rest is what you do. It's like the carnival barker to get you in the tent, right? And then the rest is the circus. And so, but there are a lot of people out there that fear it, and they believe, like, do you remember the movie The Lawnmower Man? It's a really interesting movie with Pierce Brosnan where the guy just kept getting smarter. And I kind of understand that. And there will be a certain point where AI, once they have certain conscious thought or a certain emotion or they've mastered something, sit back and see what happens on something like that. But that's why maybe some people prefer to be off the grid. Or in my mind, when I walk downstairs, it might not be AI in the sense of creating content for you, but I still think AI is seductive enough for people just to be on their phones. And so you'll go downstairs into the break room and there'll be a table of 4 people. Now, if you go back to the 70s and 80s, it's like the movie The Breakfast Club, but you go in now and 4 people are looking at 4 different things. And I'm going to say something. A lot of them are looking at Japanese anime. I just don't get that, but that's okay. Japanese anime, and there are other things. And I'm looking at them like, why aren't you guys talking? They're like, okay, okay, old guy, you know, whatever. And so, okay, grandpa. Who, me? So I guess so. But it's, put the phone down. Like if you look at the old movies, watch a movie from the 60s and 70s. Watch when Steve McQueen's sitting there chilling. He's observing his environment, picking up Faye Dunaway. That's how things were happening. You were living in the moment. Your body's here, but your mind is elsewhere. That's terrible. The only time people were elsewhere is when they were reading the newspaper in the hotel lobby. Okay, that's the only guy. That's like today's version of the phone. The rest of the people are looking around town, seeing what's going on, what's happening, seeing when it's their time to strike. And so I think people are just really giving away their precious moments of the now. And it's really making people numb. So they're missing certain social cues. in order for them to have better relationships. So the people that bring in here, I almost have to teach them timing, just natural timing that they're not used to in regards to conversation, because they can answer at their leisure, Robbie, or pretend like they didn't even see your text. And it's so interesting today. People need to text you first to ask permission to make a phone call. Well, I'm just calling you. Robbie, man, it's me calling. Come on my WhatsApp. It's a pinball machine. It's me. I like to make phone calls. I like to say, yo, Robbie, what's going on? I see a lot of misinterpretation when it comes to texting. And so I think most people, if they really want to relay the perfect message, they need to speak better.
Wow, I like that. I like that perspective. Especially, AI can be great. It can be a useful tool, but we need that human interaction and connection to really, really connect with people.
That's right.
What would be your definition of success?
Well, if you want to look at it financially, just making sure you can sleep at night and you don't need to do things unethically or through stress or through panic. But anybody can get money and gold and jewels will lose its luster. And I'm not saying I look at it differently. I was very fortunate to be able to enjoy certain advantages because of how hard I worked. And success to me, once again, is when you're putting your head on a pillow, or you've decompressed so much on a long walk or a car ride or long shower or something, and you have your purest of thoughts, and you're proud of yourself. Now you can look at your own eyes in a mirror. Maybe if you're in a good mood that day, give yourself eyes. Give yourself core. Give yourself foundation. Give yourself the spark. Something, man. Because if you're feeling low, you could be surrounded with toys and silk shirts and watches and filet mignons, and you have no appetite. You don't want to get out of bed, and all that crap sucks. Sometimes you just want a hug. But when you're having the best time of your life and you're surrounded by all your toys and filet mignons and Rolexes, that doesn't matter either, because you're on a natural high. You're in a great mood. All you want to do is high five people. And you need these temporary things, I guess, to make yourself feel good, or it's a superficial way to compare yourself to somebody, because if he has A and I have A, we're B. But okay, whatever. And when you have, it's like an adult. When you're a child and you have a quarter, you can't buy a lot of candy. You and I have $100 in our pocket. We walk into a store, we could buy as much freaking candy as we want. Some days we do. I've done it. But we don't do it every day. Where if we were a child, we'd be like, I do that every day. I buy Playboys and eat candy. You're like, really? For one day. No, I'm not kidding. But it's the kind of thing where if you can and you don't, then you're restrained, or you realize that you put too much value into something because of somebody else, or because you were restricted. You can stay up as late as you want when you live by yourself. No one's going to tell you what to do. That's great for a little while, and then all of a sudden you want to start having a sleep schedule, and you want to clean your dishes. Damn it, got company coming over. So get it out of your system, certain things. And once you get that stupid stuff out of your system, you realize you were chasing the wrong dream, and it didn't feel right. In fact, you go out and it's kind of funny. My wife tells me all the time that she'll order clothes online, and then when she gets it, she's like, it looks terrible. It's not like the way it was online. I don't like it now. It just doesn't fit right. That's why you need to go to a store That's why you need to see these things face to face. You just can't put it into the what ifs and what the image is online. Try the shoe on, try the dress on live. Go somewhere and see if you really want to live there. Seriously, spend some time there, drive the neighborhood. Or when it comes to your certain friends, there's ways to see, who makes the calls and who receives the calls, who makes the plans, who really shows empathy. And so I don't really keep score, but I'm a little older than you. And so what I've seen in my 52 years is consistency. So you don't have to make up for it. The dude that needs to bring flowers and chocolate on Valentine's Day is in a lot of trouble. He should have been smoothing all year long. So just Valentine's Day is just the bonus, it's not making up for it. Does that make any sort of sense? And so with your friends, you should be there 99 times when you don't need anything in return. It's not tit for tat. You just, Robbie's my boy. So freaking proud of you, man. And so then there's that one day you realize I can cash in my chips. And you realize that my black and white conversation was saying, Robbie, come on, man, get your act together. You cannot do this anymore. And I'm telling you this as a friend. That's when you realize it's the real deal.
I like it. I love how you really success to you. It's not all about the money, because a lot of people say success is money, but it's really about the experiences and really truly enjoying what you're doing.
You'll make your money. You'll make your money. And don't make your day about money. If you didn't make $100 that day, don't be sad.
Yeah, it's really about enjoying life and doing what you love.
How about this? I like psychology. I like being stoic. I like certain things to give me really base. If you do a certain day with honorable intentions, that's okay. No matter what the outcome is, regardless of the outcome. And say, good, bad, or ugly, once again, I can live with myself. It's a good way to think. And so you're not going to be hard on yourself that day. It's, I don't know, people that play odds and percentages, even gamblers. If you can win 55 or 60% of the time, you're a sharp, you're a wise guy, you're a top gambler in the world. And look at baseball, 300, you're going to make millions of dollars a year hitting that. And didn't Kim Jong-un say that he got minus 18 for a golf round or something, or 18 hole-in-ones or something? Yeah, man. It's things like that. Jordan had that commercial about all the shots that he missed. And I think they said in The Wolf of Wall Street, don't judge me on all the successes I had, but the failures, because I've had so few. When people do self-raps, and I've mentioned the word vulnerability before, when you make yourself vulnerable, not where you can be attacked, but you show that you are real, that you love kittens, and you enjoy a good meal, and you love your mother, and you open doors for people, and you're just a good guy all around. Don't be surprised, because a lot of the people in business, and I mentioned this earlier about complimenting Judy and doing due diligence, the biggest of the players, they look at certain terms and money and stuff, but it's really like Hollywood with the actors. Can I work with this individual? Right? Am I going to want to hate him and kill him at the end? It's to see if you jive and you're on the same wavelength. And I'll tell you what, my personality is not for everybody. A lot of people that have come here to the center might have seen the games as juvenile. The fact that I wear three-piece suits, they're like, three-piece suit? Come on, man. Get off my back. And so it's not for everybody. They would rather have me being a dictator, threatening people, following certain rules to the point of where there's no wiggle room. Certain thoughts.
Awesome. Obviously, you've been very successful, especially moving overseas. Is there any advice that you would give to somebody considering maybe moving overseas and starting their own business?
Sure. Keep an open mind. If you have the ability to learn that language where you're going, it's great. Choose a certain society that's safe. Fortunately for me, Costa Rica is a democratic society. They have no standing army, put their money back into education, 95% literacy rate, and great infrastructure. And I'm close to the United States. If you have somebody that you know that lives there, I would recommend visiting first and testing the waters. And it has to be at a certain stage in life, but no time's really the best time. But it's not also for everybody. Just don't be the rude tourist or the individual that expects certain things. It's you're a guest in another country. And so as long as you don't put yourself in any sort of dangerous positions or insult the wrong people, you should be okay. I fortunately, knock on wood, I've been here 25 years and haven't really had any sort of experiences that made me want to go running back home.
Wow, amazing. Richard, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today. I learned so much, really interesting, just a whole lot of knowledge. So once again, I just can't thank you enough for being here today.
Thank you, Robbie. I appreciate being a guest on your podcast.
Is there anywhere if more people are interested learning a little bit more about you, do you have any websites or social media?
Sure. They can go to Costa Rica's callcenter.com and check me out. Shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to review their scripts. They're friends with Robbie. I'd be more than happy to give them free consulting. But buy a plane ticket. Hop on a plane. Come down here to Costa Rica and see this beautiful Central America paradise. If you like zip lining, got some of the best surfing in the world, ecotourism. A lot of people come for medical tourism. Get your teeth done, right? And just enjoy the good life. I tell you what, the cost of living here is about a third of the States. They have the freshest fruit and vegetables at the farmer's market. The expression in Costa Rica is pura vida, which means pure life, which really represents the flair of this culture here.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I can't thank you enough for being here, and thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Robbie.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Conversations Ignite. See you next time.